What did you see, Sam?
I don't know. But whatever it was, I never want to see it again.
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Misanthropod Movie Club. I'm Snipe and as always I'm joined by Wib. Say hello.
Hello.
I'm also joined by the lovely drummer Butt. Say hello.
Hello.
How are you lovely gentlemen this fine rainy evening?
I am fine. I woke up like 20 minutes ago.
You had a big EP, I think the kids call it.
Which does mean that I realised that I have not watched the movie we're talking about today. I watched it like last week. So
you're fine.
This is going to be interesting.
It'll be fine.
But apart from that, everything is great. Matt, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you, Snipe?
I am functioning within acceptable parameters. Thank you very much for asking.
Good.
And Wibbelet, you were tasked with picking the movie that we're covering today.
Yes.
Would you like to explain why?
Okay, so the movie that we are watching today is the 1961 giant monster film Gorgo. And the reason why I picked this, it's directed by Eugene Laurie, by the way, if you're interested in such things.
No relation.
And the reason I picked it is because it is a British take on what was, at the time, a quite new genre. The original Godzilla came out in 1954. And by this point, there was only one other Godzilla movie, which I think was 56, which is Godzilla Raids Again. So this was, to do a monster movie where the person representing the monster is wearing a giant rubber suit was pretty novel at this point.
For Western audiences, at least.
Well, not even for Western audiences, just in general. It was still relatively new. And yeah, I remember watching it a while ago. I have having some interesting thoughts about it. And so that's why I picked it, basically. One thing I do want to mention is that because this is an old movie, it's quite easy to just find places online that have it.
Yeah.
And the YouTube channel in particular I watched it on is great because it was full of other weird old sci-fi movies and just weird sci-fi movies in general where no one cares about the copyright and a lot of UFO and conspiracy theory documentaries. So, if you happen to really want to watch Thong Girl vs. Zolta from outer space...
I mean, and who here doesn't?
Or a documentary about the aliens how aliens helped the Nazis, then there is a YouTube channel where you can do both.
Good.
So, yeah. Do either of you have any experience with this movie before, or...?
No.
This was actually one of my favourite movies growing up. No, of course, neither of us have anything to do with this. What the hell kind of a question is that?
I know, it could have been possible.
I had never heard of it. Did not know that it existed.
I had only heard of it in some of Wib's unhinged rantings.
Yeah, that
Complimentary.
checks out. That checks out.
That makes it, yeah.
But yeah, and just kind of like as a passing kind of curiosity of like, oh yeah, it's just a weird like British kind of, they wanted a piece of the kaiju pie and they did that and it's a bit weird and it's a short movie and nothing more in depth than that, I think.
Okay.
So yeah.
Right then. Shall I get to it then?
I guess we should dive in.
Yes.
To Gorgo.
We'll dive into Gorgo. Okay, so the movie starts with one of those lovely big drawn title cards, which I always have quite a fondness for.
Yeah.
And because it is a movie of a certain age, we get all of our credits up front. And
of which there are none, because there's like the scaling of how many crew members are involved in movie making. Because it's like, oh yeah, here's like 30 people involved in this production. And that's like, literally, that's the hair department for one like actor in a modern movie.
That's the catering.
That's the catering
on
for
one location.
In one location.
Whereas this one, it's like all special effects done by Brian in a shed. Like,
It's like,
right.
Shed Brian, he's great.
He's the best at special
Oh,
effects.
God.
I mean,
Brian.
he is pretty good at special effects. I'll give him that.
Honestly, I was quite impressed with that.
Yeah, I will say I actually really like it when they when you have like the credits up front and while some music plays, because it kind of has a bit of sometimes I think it can kind of help, a bit like kind of having an overture before something. It can kind of help prepare
helps.
you for the movie that's about to happen and
Gives
set
you a
a
bit
tone.
of hype.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a soft spot for it, although not as much as in 2001: A Space Odyssey, where the first time I watched it, because that has a proper overture before it with nothing on screen, I was like, is my copy broken? Because it's just a blank screen for like 5 solid minutes.
It's art, fool.
Anyway, so the actual movie itself opens on a bunch of people on a boat looking at some water that's all bubbly.
I didn't get that at first. I thought, because it's supposed to be like, there's like an Irish captain or whatever, and he's like pointing at the what I now know is bubbles. I thought he was pointing at the sun, and I just wrote Irish captain confused at the sight of the sun, which is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Not throwing shade on the Irish, love you guys, but like just like the sun. That's what's that doing here in Ireland? That's unusual.
This is going to be an interesting session for you, understanding, being able to tell what accents from the UK are.
Oh god. Okay, so so those of you who don't know, I am partially deaf. I have high frequency hearing loss. This movie didn't have subtitles, so I had to put YouTube CC captions on, which I wrote down. It was actually quite frightening. Frequently during musical stings, the subtitles would say hello.
Yeah, it does that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Or when people were firing guns, it would just put applause. And I'm like, I'm feeling this is the start of an 80s horror movie. This is crazy. But yeah, I had so much difficulty understanding because I can read lips, but everyone is ADR'd by like different people.
Yeah, there is some real bad lip syncing going on in this movie.
I was like, I can't. This is an auditory nightmare for me. It's because I was having trouble listening to it. I was having trouble figuring out who was saying what, and if anyone was saying anything.
I'm sorry if I ever.
It was really difficult to pay attention.
If I ever select a giant monster movie again in the future, I'll pick one where I have a physical copy of it, so it's got subtitles.
Please, because that makes it genuinely borderline impossible to. So if I don't know anything, that's why. It's because I'm physically disabled. And I have auditory processing issues anyway through my my neurodivergence. So it's like it was kind of just like Gorgo, the movie that kicks you in the fucking dick. Because fuck you, defo.
Okay, I'll get to the first line in the movie then.
But I did hear it was fumbled.
Yes,
Which made me laugh.
Yeah, so everyone's looking at this like patch of water that's all bubbling over, and the very first line, which is Sam, it's looking terribly ugly. The men are getting terribly edgy. However, it's fumbled, so he actually says, Sam, it's looking terribly ugly. The men are looking terribly edgy, and they kept that in the movie.
They could have reshot.
And it's the very first line in the movie, which I think is a real good start.
Starts you mean to go on?
Yeah. Anyway, we're introduced to the first officer, Sam, and Captain Joe, the latter of which is scuba diving and looking at an old wreck that they're looking to salvage. If you can't tell these two characters apart during the movie, because they're both white guys from a certain era, Joe is usually the one.
To look the same.
Yeah, Joe is usually the one wearing a hat.
Yeah, he's the one dressed as like Captain fucking Birdseye.
Yeah.
And I got really hungry for fish fingers the whole time.
Just look for the hat, and it's probably Joe, and he's the captain technically.
There was a part where they're dressed up a little nicer later on in the movie, and I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
remember.
I was gonna say when it first started, Sam, he's like sat on the boat, like looking out to the horizon. He's like, I was just like, ooh, he's a bit of a hunk here.
He's very, very masculine.
But then he gets more and more generic somehow throughout the film.
I don't
I don't quite understand what happened.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Anyway, so the crew is all very nervous about the bubbly water, and eventually a volcano erupts out of the water, throwing the model that represents the boat they're on around like crazy.
I did love how they were hanging off the well, what is it? Is the boat steering wheel? Is it just the wheel?
It's just the wheel.
Okay, it's just the wheel. How they were hanging off it, like honestly, they were acting their hearts out.
Oh, yeah.
It was being thrashed around, but I could tell the wheel couldn't really cope with two fully grown men hanging off it. It would look like it was it looked like it was hanging on by a thread. Yeah. Actually.
But anyway, after the boat gets thrown around a bit, we fade to what I assume is the next day, and the boat has gotten near to land, but it's pretty damaged and it's going to take about 3 days to repair. So Sam, Joe, and another guy go to shore, noticing a bunch of like weird dead fish.
They're like Junji Ito fish.
Like floating in the water, which is, they say it's because the volcano like tearing up the ocean floor, which is interesting because that's kind of like a plot point to Godzilla -1, which is...
I was thinking that.
The movie that sort of inspired me to pick this because we'd just seen Godzilla -1 when we recorded the last episode. So they come ashore to Nara Island, which isn't a real place, but it is an anagram of a real place, which is an Irish fishing village, and they look for the harbour master.
I have a note about this. They go up to what they think is the harbour master's hut, house, I guess, and they knock on the door, and a little kid answers, who I swear was Scottish, but they were like, no one will tell the difference. I couldn't tell the difference because the sound was so bad. And I was like, hello, little boy, is your father home? No. Okay, how about the harbour master? And I just wrote, father and harbour master, the two genders. It's like, we don't want to talk to a woman about this whole thing. she'll have babies all around it.
I will state I do not offhand know the nationality of the actor playing Sean, so I'm not. And given your track record with accents, I am not going to confirm nor deny.
I did notice in the YouTube comments when I was flicking through those just to sort of see what people's general vibe for it was after I'd watched it. There's a couple of people were commenting on how good the accent is of the kid, considering he's not from wherever the accent is of. But that's just random people on YouTube, so that's likely to be a lie, I guess.
I've had English people ask me if I was from Birmingham, like straight off the plane. Yeah. So like fucking nobody can be trusted here. I'm not that bad.
I watched this like a week ago, so that's not a thing that I committed to memory. Okay. Anyway, so yes, they get some directions in Gaelic, which is apparently actually accurate.
Some of the time.
Yes, but there's reasons.
Money and racism.
No. Just to kind of give a little bit of an interesting little spoiler here. When they ask the guy, where the harbour master's house is, he responds with, if I remember correctly, it's something like, "What do we do now?" Which IMDb's stupid error section says is an error, but it's not an error. It's foreshadowing, but only for people who can speak Gaelic. Yeah. Which is interesting because, that is actually a thing they were saying to each other, not to the guy. Anyway, so they find the harbour master's house, which is definitely bigger on the inside, so it may be a TARDIS, because you see a shot on the outside and on the inside, and it's definitely bigger on the inside.
Shut up, nerd.
And so yeah, they meet this guy called this young boy called Sean, who announces apropos of nothing that he doesn't have a father, but he does odd jobs for McCartin, who is the harbour master, who's not here right now.
No, it's child labour.
McCartin
he's an orphan that the studio owned.
Yeah. McCartin is an archaeologist as well, and so lacking any better plans, Sean goes and takes them to go and look at some Viking artifacts they've found and cleaned up. And after kind of poking around there for a moment, McCartin shows up, whose actor has a real stern look to him.
Honestly, like, there's a couple of bits of lighting later where he's, like, having a bit of a heated discussion with Sam and Joe, and, like, they're lit, like, their eyes are lit so bright that I thought for a second I was like, Thunderbirds. Very Thunderbirds. They've all got plastic hair, they're all in turtlenecks and polo shirts.
Well, yeah, they have to wear turtlenecks to cover up where the join for the body and neck is.
And I was just like, oh my god, this is so distracting.
But yeah, so McCartan shows up, and he basically tells them that if they want to stay for longer than 24 hours, they need a permit. So basically, he's just come to tell them to fuck off because he's not telling them how to get a permit either.
I like him.
Sam and Joe leave, wondering why McCartan is so prickly, and decide to try and find out. I think the next time you see them, they're actually on a boat, and they're starting to like talk to some of the other people in the village who are also on boats. Yeah,
which one of them is shouting it in Gaelic, and the thing is, like, I don't know the difference between Irish and Scottish Gaelic, and there will be I'm foreign. Don't be mean and angry at me, Scottish and Irish people, please. But I did hear I'm sure I heard a Sassenach in there.
You did. You hear them say the word Sassenach multiple times.
Which is basically kind of like ugh, fucking Englishman.
Yeah, officially I believe it just means, like, foreigner. But it is used derisively in Scots Gaelic.
My nana did used to call my mother that.
It does also exist in Irish Gaelic. I did check.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I did hear that, and I was like, I know that word.
But yeah, basically, the people in the boats tell them to fuck off again, but in Gaelic this time. However, they find out that there's 2 local divers have gone missing, and they notice, and Sam and Joe notice one of them floating in the water, and so they pull him up onto the boat. He's got fancy gold coins.
He's got, like, the thinnest gold coins that they could manage, and the guy's, like, moaning and carrying on, and then they look at him, and they're like, oh, he's dead. How the fuck did he just die? And they're like, he must have been scared. He's dead.
He'd acclimatized to the water, and so they brought him out, and he couldn't breathe the air anymore.
No, that's not what happened.
That's definitely how that works.
Also, can you tell I started getting really bored because I started putting my Charmander stamp all over my notes?
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Anyway, Diver is dead. One of the characters says, like, if you ask me, he died of fright.
And then they just accept that as the cause of death?
Yeah. The other diver is entirely missing. So a little bit later, Sam and Joe decide to go diving in the same area to try and find what's going on. Also, maybe find that there's more of that treasure. Maybe.
I'm sorry, but like that's the peakest slasher brain, where it's like, this man apparently died of fright, and at this time, in this decade, we think that that's only a thing that happens to women. So, like, something so powerful to scare a man to death. Let's go dip our balls in this here ocean for some, like, fucking dairy milk chocolate coins, shall we?
Anyway, to be fair, I think I have seen, like, real-world ancient coins that look like the ones that they have that are very thin. Like, that is a real thing that exists.
I would respect a man more if he was diving for dairy milk chocolate coins than just like, this is fucking very tricky.
I mean, this is true. I don't like Sam and Joe very much for reasons that become apparent.
I don't like them either. Yeah.
Anyway, so you see them kind of swimming around for a bit with very era-appropriate diving music, as in all the music sounds like it's from Stingray.
I'll take your word for it.
So they futz around on the seabed for a while, and eventually they see a monster.
Is it Gorgo? Gorgonzola?
I mean, one is to assume. Would someone like to describe the monster that we see here?
It's like... It's like... I've forgotten the name. Flappy Ear Baby.
It's a Godzilla.
It's a Godzilla.
It's a Godzilla.
With had a lady suit actor.
Oh, Baragon.
It looks like Baragon with tiny ears.
A little bit. I actually get that. That's Baragon, not Barugon, which is a Gamera monster.
Yeah, you idiot.
We're talking about Baragon, the creature that debuted in Frankenstein Conquers the Earth. Was it Frank? Actually, is that the name?
I don't know. Anyway, I do like how they do commit to making its little ear fins flap a bit throughout the movie. I do like that a lot. I think that's quite cute.
Yeah. Seeing a giant monster, they quickly head to the surface and are like, yeah, we're not going to do that again.
The thing is, they don't care.
They just light up a cigarette
on the surface. Like,
they pop up, they spark up, and like, I can't remember fucking Sam or Joe, whoever the hell, is like, oh, did you see something, Sam? And like the most 80 yard, he's like desperate to get home and have a jerk off or something. And he's like, if I guess and I don't want to see it again. And then it's just like, having a cigarette in the boat and they don't care. I'm like, I'm sorry, I would literally, I would rent a Skyrider to go, yo, there's some spooky shit down there. But no, he's just like, I'll just have a cigarette, I don't care.
Yeah, it's
better dry my hair. It's just,
Yeah, gotta scrunch it because I've got some curls coming in and I don't want to, make them blow out or anything.
Anyway, so a little bit later on again, at night, they're taking on supplies to leave because obviously they can't stay in this village.
Not without a permit.
Not without a permit, but Sean shows up to tell them that McCartan wants to see them, and that the whole concept of the passport was a heathen lie anyway.
A heathen lie.
Which is a fun turn of phrase to hear from like an 8-year-old.
I am so upset. No one's ever accused me of lying like a heathen. Yeah. Please comment down below on how much of a heathen I am and how I lie.
So as they get, they come into the village, they see loads of the villagers going around carrying torches, some of them getting in boats carrying torches, they're...
Torch boats, yeah.
They're going after, Frankenstein's
monster,
but wet.
Oh.
And Sean explains that, it's because they think a shark got the missing diver, which does...
So they're going to go set fire to a shark.
Yeah, it does not actually explain why they're carrying torches on boats, but anyway.
Sharks are afraid of fire because that is their natural predator.
Yeah. So they go see McCartan, who basically tells them off for snooping around and that they need to fuck off even quicker. Sam and Joe are like, yeah, we want to. This place sucks. And then we cut to some of the villagers in the boats who are looking in the water, and one of them throws a harpoon in and hits something. And then a very pissed monster who has a harpoon stuck in his head erupts from the water.
I'd be pissed off as well. I'm just hanging out and someone harpoons me through the head.
And yeah, you get a better look at the monster now, which is, yes, very Godzilla-like, except it has glowing red eyes, and it has little fins at the side of its
same,
head.
But yeah.
Little ear fin things going on. Actually, kind of like how some old art of the Loch Ness Monster is portrayed. Occasionally has those little head fins. It's often seen on Here Be Dragons kind of illustrations.
Yeah.
So the monster rears out of the water and starts smashing up the boats and comes ashore. The locals all start shooting it with small arms. Sean doesn't seem particularly happy about this.
He's not really upset about it either.
Yeah, but he's kind of fucking stop it.
You dickhead.
I've got to say the bullet fire here, the sort of the ricochet noise.
Yeah, it's just what is it ricocheting off?
I'm not. That. But no, my point was it sounds, and I haven't gone back to check this, but it sounded exactly like the memory of the ricochet sound from Time Splitters. And I just want to go play Time Splitters now. I haven't thought about this game for about 20 years, but that ricochet sound just put me right back to playing Time Splitters. It was amazing.
Maybe they come from the same sound library.
They might.
Honestly, probably. I was I was very amused by the fact that Gorgo's roar is just an elephant, but a bit pitch shifted.
Yeah, but that's kind of common with this kind of thing.
Yeah, but then later they're in a trailer talking about how these zoo animals are they're scared of Gorgo, and you hear an elephant going, oh, fuck, and it's just that could be Gorgo. I don't know. I don't know her.
I will say there's a really nice composite shot here where you see Gorgo, walking on land, and there's, the people in the village running away from it, and it's kind of shot from above.
There's a lot of this. It's some really cool shots.
Yeah, that actual shot, I don't expect everyone else to be as familiar with giant monster movies of this time period.
Yes, you do.
But that shot is really good for this time period. The seam is near invisible. And genuinely, there are occasional shots in this movie that are so well done that it kind of takes me aback, and it makes me, as someone that likes this kind of stuff, like the movie a lot more purely from a technical level, you know? I don't expect anyone else to have any fondness for the movie for these reasons, I want to be clear.
That's good.
So Sam and Joe start hurling some flaming logs at the monster, and the villagers start to join in. And not wanting this wanton bullying, the monster heads back into the ocean.
I've written, they throw sticks, etc. Quote, balls to this, I'm off.
Yeah, pretty much. He's
Yeah,
like,
the monster's like, sod this.
I don't like it when people throw sticks at me. It's very
Fire
weird.
sticks, specifically.
It's
It's like some of them throw like harpoons at them and they just kind of land sideways in its mouth and it's like, nah.
Yeah.
Because like no one there knows how to throw a spear, which fair.
So the next morning, the villagers are all, just everyone is yelling at McCorman, and who says that no one is allowed to leave and invites Sam and Joe inside to talk about what's going on. They're like, look, we know there's a treasure, so how about we solve this monster problem for you, and you could let us in on the treasure? They do all this in an unreasonably threatening manner.
They do.
Like, straight up, they are...
I kind of see this as just like the biological need to attack the Irish that is inherent in all English people.
You might be onto something there.
I was just like, wow, you'll really fucking love bullying the Irish, okay.
Yeah, it's...
Which will come up later.
Like, they're so antagonistic for no good reason. And, like, McCormick is, like, a piece of shit as well. Like, he is also... everyone here, apart from Sean, is unreasonably, like, harsh and aggressive at all times. Mm-hmm. And you are sitting there going, so Joe and Sam are supposed to be the heroes, yet they did kind of just threaten a guy into giving him some...
It's not even treasure, it's like priceless archaeological, like, discoveries that they're gonna hawk to some twat in London.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's alright.
Sean has actually been spying on this whole thing, and when they leave, he chases after Sam and Joe and basically tells them, you're being dicks about this, and the seamen then just wonder how they're going to kill the monster. Maybe they're going to use dynamite, and maybe it'd be worth more if it's alive. So, it's the boat, which apparently was going to take 3 days to fix, but is apparently just fixed now.
Very lucky, really.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Is going out onto the water, and their plan is that Joe is going to get into a bathysphere as bait.
Yeah, maybe.
It's not super clear what.
I thought he was just
is.
going for another explore. I didn't realise he was like.
I'm sure they do
That's
use
a
the term
terrible
bait.
idea.
Yeah, I didn't hear bait. I just thought he was just gonna go. I'm gonna go and like see if like I can see the monster's balls or something. I didn't know what he was doing.
Because like they're talking about catching it, and they have a plan.
They don't tell us the plan.
Yeah, they don't tell us the plan. But anyway,
it's like, bro, just trust us. It's cool.
So they lower him down. If you know, a bathysphere, a little submersible thing that is dropped down on a rope from a boat. If you don't know, does everyone know what a bathysphere is?
I know that it's spelt bathy sphere. Like, oh, this is a sphere you put in the bath.
Yes.
It's a bath bomb, is what I'm saying.
So he lowers down. He kind of has a bit of a pee around at the ocean for a bit, and then we see the monster swimming around. It's adorable and goofy.
I like its ears.
So the monster comes up and grabs the bathysphere, and they start to pull it up. It should be mentioned the monster's like 30 feet tall or something.
It is canonically listed as 65.
Yeah. Which is
fun
fun because he goes 60 foot down in the water.
Yeah, it's like 10 fathoms is 60 feet and 65.
Yeah, I like that.
And it's just you just see the top of its stupid face being like, "Hello, don't mind me." Either that, or I'd like to headcanon that the guy who's leading, like where the bathysphere goes, just doesn't fucking know how big a fathom is, and he's just guessing because he never learned.
This is my hot take. No one in like naval engineering or like who's on a boat knows what a fathom is. They've been making it up for years.
They have. They're like, oh, it's just like the thinking light year is like time. It's like, oh yeah, fathom. That's rope.
Yeah, that's about 40 fathoms away. I don't fucking know.
It's like
Anyway.
There was 40 fathoms left in that ketchup this morning when I got up, and now...
But yeah, I think I kind of underestimated the height of it because of things that happened later.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's quite big. Not the biggest kaiju.
It's a big boy.
relatively big. I mean, yeah. So the monster grabs the bathysphere. I'm not 100% sure why Joe had to be inside it for this, but
it's a kid thing.
So they start to pull it up whilst dropping nets from above, which envelop the creature so that they're able to haul it to the surface.
I do love this. There's a big struggle, and they're like, "Oh, let's just get a net." And then the net is fine, and I was like, "That's never going to work." And then the next scene, it's just somehow
It's
all
tied up on top of the
in the
boat
net
somehow. And it's just looking pretty miserable and kind of fed up. It's like, wow, I really let that net work on me, huh?
Yeah.
My other point from this is that I really enjoyed how the chain was like they couldn't pull up the bathysphere when it was being held down by the monster Gorgo, but when the chain was holding on to Gorgo, they could lift it up fine. All is well.
Gorgo was kicking along and helping.
When he was tied up. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's a little... Maybe... Oh, no, it was the weight of Gorgo and the bathysphere that was too much for those chains.
Okay.
Apparently.
That was the exact amount. Remove the bathysphere. And it was
So the bathysphere's still there.
If it was lighter and didn't have a fully grown-ass man in it, maybe weight would have been a bit better as well.
Yeah, but look at it this way. You don't get clear shots of much about how this process of catching it with a net worked.
Yeah.
So I can say anything here, and you can't actually prove me wrong.
If there was just one of them holding up a sign underwater that says, "Bro, just trust me," and then the next scene is them with Gorgo on the boat, I'd be like, yeah, you know what, that's fair.
Pretty much. We then get a montage of the world's press reporting that the monster's been caught, with speculation that it might have been released from somewhere under the earth with all the seismic activity from the volcano earlier. A very English news presenter says, "Some scientific authorities are suggesting that the whole thing is merely an elaborate Irish hoax," which is...
Again, they can't help but bully the Irish. Leave them alone.
It was one way to put that. So back on the boat, the monster is trapped under the net, and there's a couple of professors from the University of Dublin who show up and are like,
very English people for people from Dublin.
They're like, "We'll take it, and you'll be properly compensated for the trouble."
And can I just say, I actively laughed out loud, because the moment these guys are off screen, they went, "So fuck the Irish, let's sell it to some prick in London."
Yeah.
It's like, what?
The people in London are bound to have more money than the Irish.
Yeah, literally, and I was
because
like...
neither of you, the Irish, they said they will be properly compensated.
And the Irish are like, because they found it in Irish waters, so the scientific discovery belongs to the Irish, and the English are immediately like, "Fuck those Irish people, it's ours."
Yeah, checks out.
And I'm like, wow, this is pretty accurately describing, history between the two countries, so yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I literally wrote down, the English just can't help but fuck over the Irish, can they?
You ain't wrong.
I mean, just insert any other culture into that sentence as well, and the
English just can't help but fuck over the...
Insert name of culture, yeah. Anyway, they put a guy on guard duty in order to shoot the monster if it moves, but we've seen bullets don't do anything to it, so I'm not really sure what that plan is.
I think the gun is just to make the guard feel better.
Possibly.
Yeah. Which, honestly, credit to the guy playing the actor playing that guy. He looks so ready to stand there for 12 hours. He's like, "I've been waiting my whole life for this, to point a gun at something that can't die. Oh, I can't wait to just be murdered because something's immune to small arms fire. Oh."
So Sam and Joe see more mysterious bubbles in the water, and they reason that they're coming off the creature because they're spraying it with water. So something on the creature coming off is making the water.
Oh yeah, because these scientists say, "Oh, keep spraying it with water because it's an underwater creature, you idiots." So they just keep dousing it in water.
The professors earlier say that. Yeah. And so while they're talking about this, they hear a scream, and the guard. From the guard, because the monster's getting all ornery and has injured him somehow. Not entirely sure.
Yeah.
I feel like... Oh yeah, I missed the thing. Yeah, because we see Sean as stowed away on the boat, and he tries...
Yeah, he tries to open
Because that's why they put a guard on the monster, because he tries to free...
Then Sam, or Joe, I can't tell the difference anymore, he grabs him and goes... "Come on, you little nuthead," which, whoa. That's a bit much.
Yeah, it's Joe. If someone does something unreasonably dickish, it's probably Joe. He is the much worse person.
He does, pick him up and just walk off with him.
Yeah, basically.
I'm going to throw this child in the brig.
They basically just have a child now. This is just a thing.
I did write down earlier that the sexual tension between him, Joe, and the doctor was pretty high. So, maybe they could be a throuple that adopts a child.
Maybe.
I mean, they'd all be shit parents for twats. But you know what I mean?
I do kind of because so basically they have, I guess you could call it either an involuntary kidnapping or an involuntary adoption has just happened.
I feel that you shouldn't call it the second one. Maybe.
They basically have adopted him for the rest of the movie now.
Yeah, I guess.
But also he kind of got himself kidnapped, like.
Also, victim blaming.
So they like they have sort of done a kidnapping, whether they like it or not.
Okay.
I guess.
Your Honor, that child made me kidnap him.
Sean does have a line that I kind of like, which is something along the lines of like, because they're like, oh yeah, we're going to take the monster and show it to people, and he's like, why should anyone have to see it to know it's there? Which is I kind of like that.
I can't believe Sean's an anti-vaxxer.
I feel it because it sort of like gets into the commodification of nature, of you can appreciate nature in its own environment without having to take nature and like put it on man's terms.
Yeah, but a little Irish boy said it, so no one's going to listen to him.
Well, no. But yeah, so the monster's done some shit, injured a guy, whatever. We then cut to London, and we see there's a whole circus tent set up for the creature, and there's like a band playing when they arrive.
Explicitly from Dawkins Circus, which I wrote, Dawkins Circus. Haha.
I quite like when you see the band playing.
It's very obviously just stock footage of a band.
Well, they've composited in some bunting over some strategic areas of the footage, which means there was something underneath there that they didn't want the audience to see.
It was like, yeah, King Kong, woo.
And it's probably either because it explicitly says something about where that footage was taken from, or maybe one of the guys had his dick out. I don't know.
I hope the trombonist had his dick out. That'd be pretty funny.
That is a problem with trombone players. We can say as people who are all in a ska band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they always have their dicks out. So
yep.
It just helps them play better.
Yeah.
Don't know. Just, yeah. I do like the because you see shots of London and the Gorgo things everywhere, and I do you have the radio announcer talking about it. It's like, why is it called Gorgo? We don't know. Oh well.
That's my favourite line of the film. I love it.
It's such a non sequitur.
So he's called. We don't know
why. They don't know why.
The thing is, 2 minutes later, they actually answer that, so they don't actually need to bring it up.
They didn't need to put that in there, because now I was just... That's like, yes, you can see the posters for Gorgo everywhere. My wife left me, don't know why. And then we're going to be the Dawkins Circuit. It's like, what the fuck is this? This guy doesn't even have, a script. He's just freewheeling at this point. He's recording a podcast that everyone in London has to listen to, which can't relate.
Anyway, in London, the professors have caught up with Sam and Joe and are mad at them for, not bringing the monster where they said they were.
Not keeping their word.
Yeah, not keeping their word. Which is yeah. And also saying how wildly irresponsible it is to bring this creature into a highly populated city.
Yeah, because it's this thing could have bacteria on it from under the sea it's Gorgo, Sam and Joe caused COVID-19. And they did not care. And then they blamed the Irish.
I mean...
It's canon.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, they say the creature's been named Gorgo, and there's signs up for it everywhere. You see it a Piccadilly Circus and things. And it's being paraded around London on the back of a flatbed lorry whilst it's sedated. And I would love to know what happened to that prop, because it is a real full-size prop.
I want to know what people were thinking in London when they were closing off the streets, driving that thing through, going, okay. Although the radio presenter does earlier say people in London don't give a fuck about anything.
I mean, they're from London, they see shit like this every other day.
They have a bar where everyone's in a suit with a pint in front of them, and they're like, Londoners are notoriously hard to convince. Yeah. It's okay.
They do say that this creature should have gone extinct 10 million years ago, which does continue the tradition from the 1954 Godzilla of not knowing how long ago dinosaurs lived.
Yeah. It's 20 years, it's fine.
And declaring something much, much bigger than a dinosaur is a dinosaur. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the creature is brought to Battersea Park for display at Dawkins Circus. Sam and Joe are basking in the fame, and the circus owner is who's just a guy named Dawkins, is bragging about how he's, spared no expense and all that shit. And also explains that Gorgo is a deliberate allusion to the Gorgon.
Gorgonzola, the cheese?
The Gorgon of... It's Greek myth. I always get my Greek and Roman myths mixed up.
Gorgonzola.
Okay.
I'm really proud of it.
I can tell you've zoned out of this movie.
I do not fucking care.
Anyway,
Gorgonzola.
I will mention also that this got pointed out in like the trivia for the movie when I looked up some stuff afterwards, and I went back and checked and I was like, oh shit. You see two women talking to Dorkin here. These are the only two women in the movie who have speaking lines.
I was wondering actually, because I was trying to think of like when I saw one of them, because she was so made up. I was like, is this like an old Shakespeare play thing where they've got like a kind of femme dude to just dress in drag because they hate women that much they don't want one? Because they did like try and do the whole, oh yeah, they went and stole from a minority. Like this big scientific thing and a bunch of artifacts, but they couldn't bear to have people of colour on screen, so they just made it the Irish. Because at least they were white or something. It's like all of this just oozes with of-the-time racism and sexism.
I mean, yeah, but I'll be perfectly honest. This gets a lot of points for, unlike so many of the Toho, the company that make Godzilla films, so many of the Toho monster movies of the time, just containing lots of actual blackface. So
yeah, okay, you know what? It's like not as big of a dick as they could have been.
Yeah, and they tended to be misogynist in a much more active manner rather than just forgetting women exist, which is what this movie does.
Yeah, why
although it does mean since these two women do not, each has one line and they do not speak to each other. Absolutely amazing fail of the Bechdel test.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, I thought I'd mention that. So Gorgo is lowered into its giant enclosure.
It's an empty swimming pool. It's
fucking
rank.
Yeah.
I'd be pissed off if I was Gorgo.
I was very confused because he'd like. Oh no, sorry, this is later. Hang on, I've got my notes coming up. Okay,
Okay. I'll be mad in a minute.
So he's lowered into his enclosure, and the chains are removed as the tranquilizer's starting to wear off. A paparazzi jumps the fence and like takes a photo, and the flash like.
I will say I really did like you can hear Gorgo breathing, just sleepy breathing. And
there's a lot
Gorgo ASMR.
There's a lot of little touches that are quite good in this movie.
And then paparazzi literally King Kongs him and pisses him off with the flash.
Yeah, it jumps up, takes a flash, takes a photo. The flash goes off, makes Gorgo mad, so it breaks free of the remaining bombs.
And we get Sam or Joe's like most understated response to this. It was like, what did he say? He says, "Well, that's a hell of a dumb thing to do." Like understatement of.
It's like, yeah, mate. What?
Yeah.
You flashed a sleeping fucking dinosaur because.
So they're like, go get the flamethrowers because this circus has flamethrowers.
Every circus in London has flamethrowers. All 16 of them.
To try and push it like back into the actual pen before it smashes up too much stuff, because it does kind of go on a mini rampage, like knocking over vehicles and stuff.
As a treat, yeah.
And it lightly tail whips a guy who
it just
dies.
kills a random guy, and they're like, not Lenny.
And when this guy dies, the soundtrack treats it like, we fucking love this guy.
We love
this
Lenny.
This is a big moment. I do not remember the guy's name. I did not note it down because he is not important.
Lenny.
Was it actually Lenny?
No, I made it up.
Okay.
I was thinking of the Simpsons joke, like, not Lenny.
Yeah. But yeah, so he's been killed. It's kind of like when the guy gets killed at the start of Jurassic Park. It's like to show you.
It's to show you that
this is a bad idea.
He's already Gorgo's already killed like a few people, and it's just like, hey, you idiots, were you paying attention? He's killed a man on London soil, so now it matters. Unlike that Irish soil.
I think it's more that he has killed a guy whilst they think they're in control.
Okay.
I think that's the actual purpose.
I still like the whole kind of. Not Lenny.
Anyway, we're on to the big opening night. Dawkins giving his best King Kong, like, 8th wonder of the world speech.
I noticed some Yorkshire ADR here. There's a guy handing out popcorn and he goes, popcorn, get your popcorn. And I'm like, I'm watching the man's mouth and I'm like, what the fuck? And I just wrote Yorkshire ADR.
Given your track record of isolating Yorkshire accents, I want everyone to go back into the movie and fact check Snipe if that is indeed a Yorkshire accent. I did not note that down.
It wasn't. I did because I know I can tell about 60% of the time if somebody's already from Yorkshire. I think that's pretty impressive, quite frankly. As someone
I'm going to argue those numbers, or I would, but we need to get on with this.
Okay.
So, yes, Dawkins given his best speech. We find out the entry to see Gorgo is 5 shillings, which would be about £5.50 in today's money, if I worked it out right.
So, like, less than a bus ticket.
I mean, depending on where you're going, yeah.
Private buses, it's less than a bus ticket.
Yeah. Everyone's sort of crowded around this sort of... you say, yeah, it is just a swimming pool, isn't it? Because they're in
It's just a swimming pool.
They're in like the seats
The
around
deep end
it.
hasn't been cleaned out properly, and they've gone, it needs to stay wet. It's fine. Let the fucking suit actor get trench foot. We don't care.
Yeah, and
It's the fucking 50s.
they're all kind of just in the seats around it, and people are just kind of...
They're cheering at it.
They're just kind of looking at it.
They're like, oh yeah, it's a fucking dude in a swimming pool. Fucking love this shit.
Eating snacks and just kind of watching whilst this animal is like just screeching.
Just elephant noising everywhere.
And it just seems unreasonably cruel, but having been to London, this does entirely check out.
Yeah. That's what it's like catching the tube.
Sam is starting to come down with a case of having a conscience, and is obviously not feeling... Well, maybe not conscience, but I think he's really starting to realise this whole thing is a real bad guy.
Yeah, because
real bad move, because he knew,
He knew Lenny.
He knew the guy who... Oh, I did note it down. His name was Mike.
Lenny.
Mike.
Oh, Mike.
We miss Mike.
Pour one out for Mike.
Yeah, pull one off for Mike.
Who may have been on the salvage crew the whole time and I just didn't pay attention.
Yeah, no one knows.
Everyone looks so similar. It's hard to tell.
But yeah,
them all apart.
Sam is like, yeah, something bad is going to happen. And you see, yeah, Sean's in the background, resting in bed because, yeah, they've just adopted him. It's just a thing.
I thought it was really weird because it looked like they cut to Sean lying in bed listening to his dad's argue, and like I was like, is that any even in the trailer they're in? Or has he just got supersonic boy hearing?
You can see him in the background of the shot, so...
I didn't notice him. I didn't notice him at all, oh my god.
So Sam and Joe get a call from those professors, and they go and see them. And they're told that they reckon that Gorgo is not actually an adult, that is probably just a baby. So they've been torturing a baby, so that's cool.
Yeah, that's, again, very on brand for the English.
And since
abducting and torturing Irish children.
And since Gorgo is about 50-odd feet tall, an adult would probably be around 200 feet tall.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's an issue.
Mommy's very angry.
They're kind of like, since you, Joe, are a massive prick, we're going to go above your head and not let you report this to anyone. We're going to report this to the authorities directly because you are a dick.
I mean, Joe is kind of a massive dick.
We then get a shot back of Sean kind of hanging out with Gorgo,
he's doing like the
we do
kaiju child thing where they just like have a connection with the giant monster and are like, truly, man is the real monster.
And this is long before you'd kind of have that shit show up in Godzilla movies.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I think also before, I can't remember when the first Gamera movie was made, I kind of want to make you guys watch Gamera at some point.
I will ask that you don't...
There's a kid in it who's failing school because he likes turtles too much.
Literally me! They are coming for me where I live.
Is that why you don't want to watch Gamera? It's too close to home.
It's just... Yeah. And I was like, my father was like, you need to study, otherwise you'll never become a horse astronaut. And I was like, yeah, I can do that and love turtles. And he was like, no, and he would throw my turtles away.
Anyway, we do see there is an electric fence around Gorgo's pen, which is what's actually keeping him in, because obviously he's not fully submerged by this empty swimming pool.
That's because someone's like pissed in it, and it's got like piss depth levels.
I think that's Gorgo's piss.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's just Gorgo's piss.
That makes it so much worse.
Yeah.
Quick, fellas, we need to pee in the pool.
Which is
It's
not
like,
the
no,
most.
he's pissed it in itself.
Which is not the most uncomfortable bowel movement in a old kaiju movie. That honor belongs
the only
to the
one
film Yongari, a South Korean kaiju movie.
Young Gary. Anyway, so Gorgo piss.
Yeah, so we all have to think about Gorgo piss. And we go back to Nara Island, where McCartan sees that those professors might have been onto something as a much bigger Mama Gorgo erupts from the sea and just smashes up the whole fucking village, killing McCartan in a hail of bricks and rage.
Yeah, Mummo just stamps on the whole fucking island. It's like, oh, I'm from England and I hate the Irish. And then she goes back to London.
We don't know where Gorgo comes from.
Well, we know that Beb Gorg is like at least Irish.
Well, then wouldn't that mean that Mom Gorg is also Irish?
Okay, but like, she kills a bunch of Irish people. That is English coded behaviour.
I mean, okay, sure. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't go into this expecting this to have like
Socio-political kind of.
Yeah, this was not what I was coming into here for. But I guess this is what we're doing.
I was sitting there.
You're just trying to find something else to talk about.
Something else that would interest me, and I was like, oh yeah, the English are dicks. Complimentary to the people I'm sitting with.
Anyway, so we see the professors are now talking to an admiral about the danger, and they find out that there's been no communication with Nara Island. So the Navy goes to check on the island, and fans of early 1960s military planes and boats will get some nice stock footage here.
Oh.
Yeah. Occasionally you have British planes and things.
Occasionally they are a British thing.
I did notice that.
Mostly they are not.
Yeah, I did notice.
And eventually they stumble into the new, bigger Gorgo.
Mama.
They shoot at it, but you can't really tell if that does anything because it just goes straight back underwater.
I mean, to be fair, small arms fire didn't hurt Beb Gorg, so why would it hurt Mum Gorg?
Well, this isn't small arms fire. This is like cannons from like
It's small
ships.
arms fire to Mum Gorg.
I don't know. I feel like a ship's artillery cannon does deserve at least some degree of respect of not
give
being
it a
called
try,
small
at
arms.
least.
Okay.
Like, they have not tried ship-to-ship artillery on it yet. So, back in London, Sam and Joe are brought in by the Navy to the Admiral, whose name's Admiral Brooks. And they ask if they know anything useful since, it turns out Nara Island has been destroyed. Which I think they do say that Nara Island has been destroyed, but they obviously just mean the village on it, because the island is still there.
Just stabs the island to death? It's like, that's pretty hardcore.
Whatever. And the creature was spotted heading its way to London, because it, probably has Gorgo's scent due to, like, the stuff that was washing off it on the boat, which...
That's actually quite clever.
Yeah, I kind of like that they actually acknowledge that. The Admiral... who in my notes I wrote in all caps, and I don't know why.
The Admiral! Okay, yeah, that's really intense.
I don't know why I did that.
I loved the Admiral because he was so fucking useless. He was just on the phone all the time going, oh, I see, yes. No, we can't use nuclear weapons, that's bad. Okay, bye, love you.
I mean, that's much, much later.
Yeah, I know, it was funny.
But anyway, the Admiral is sure that they've killed the larger creature since they've dropped so many depth charges on it that no living thing could survive. Which then cuts to a scene of...
the living thing surviving.
Of Mama Gorgo erupting out of the ocean, destroying a battleship, and then the Admiral getting a call and just being like, fuck.
I love how, like, Mum Gorg is like, ha, bitch, you thought.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I've been humbled.
Sam, who's very much in his this was a bad idea phase now, is like, we should release the baby while we've still got a chance. But he's shot down and they basically asked to leave. A little later, Joe arrives back at the circus to find a visibly drunk Sam trying to open up the gates to Gorgo's pen. And Sean is trying to stop him because at this point, even Sean is like, okay, just letting him out, like, whilst you're drunk, this is a bad move.
Yeah.
Like, because Sean is broadly in favour of, like...
I mean, Sean wants
Gorgo
to be
free.
but, like, not like that, where he could just run out and stamp on all the nice lions and zebras.
Yeah, not in a way that is going to lead to so much death right now, instantly. Like, do it sensibly. Sean is the voice of reason in this movie.
He's probably also the only actually non-drunk person on set. Maybe. It was
yeah,
the 60s, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably true.
Can I just say as well, I will spoil the next part, because, like, it's Sam that's drunk, right?
Yes.
And he's, like, trying to open it, and, like, Joe comes up and is like, oh, God, I can't let Sam let the baby out. So he goes over and has a bit of a scuffle with him, and then just punches him out with the weakest, lamest punch. and because Sam's, like, obviously drunk, like, an entire bottle of whiskey, he's just, like, asleep. And then, and I've got to say, this was actually really hot, he just, like, Joe just picks him up and walks off with him over his shoulders, and I'm like, oh. Suddenly I don't hate Joe as much as I thought I would.
Also, you're paying attention to the film again.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. The moment male-coded violence comes in, and I'm like, oh.
I do like how he's he's so ready to just punch the shit out of his friend. Like, the solution to this is
It was the 60s. Everyone was punching everyone all the time.
Everyone was drunk and punching each other.
Okay, this is true.
That's literally true. like there was a cut scene where Sean just punches a cat. I don't know if that's true. It won't be, but...
So we're back out looking at the Navy, who is once again looking for the big Gorgo. There's more stock footage. The monster pops their head just, like, neatly out the water, and a truly comical amount of ordnance is fired at it.
A truly comical amount of ordnance. That is the perfect way to describe it.
It's like the like, naval ordnance equivalent of the amount of police that's in the Blues Brothers, you know?
Gorgo versus Illinois Nazis. I'd pay to see that.
I think this is the second of these episodes we've referenced the Blues Brothers.
We should watch the Blues Brothers. That's a good movie.
I'm down to watch the Blues Brothers at some point.
Yeah,
I like the Blues Brothers.
Maybe, yeah.
Not Blues Brothers 2000.
No.
Because that is bad. Or at least I remember it being bad.
No, it is. It is really, really bad, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so the monster just goes straight back underwater because of the amount of ordnance being fired at it.
Ow!
They're chased by a submarine, which is crewed by people who have
very obviously not English, because they're dubbed by very English people.
They have the worst ADR in the whole movie.
It is appalling. It's the ADR in this movie is really bad, and so this is saying something. I just remember there's a guy on the phone going, he's like hurriedly trying to talk, because like the guy's receiver's in front of his mouth, so you can't see his mouth moving. But the thing is, you can see the rest of his face and know that it isn't moving. And then he puts it down and just immediately shuts up, and I'm like, oh god, this is awful.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. They fire some torpedoes at the monster, but those torpedoes can't keep up with it. Sort of rendering this whole scene with the submarine kind of redundant.
Yeah, but they wanted to show you how bad ADR could be.
They wanted to show you that they bought this stock footage of a submarine.
Yeah.
They then talk about putting up the anti-submarine nets around the Thames estuary to try and stop the creature, which made me fall down a little Wikipedia dive for a second.
Were you looking to see if the Thames had nets, anti-submarine nets?
It did have anti-submarine measures. That were put up, during, like, early Cold War times.
They got, like, really poor orphan, hung him off by his belt straps, had like, a stick to poke into the water.
But yeah, they weren't like this. They were more, like, solid physical things. Sometimes you can actually still see them if you're down south and you see, like, a kind of thing jutting out to the coast. That was part of the old, like, anti-submarine, like, infrastructure.
I love the anti-submarine infrastructure.
But they weren't nets. And they were demolished in the 60s because ICBMs existed, and trying to stop a submarine coming into the Thames estuary turned out to not actually be that important when someone can fire an intercontinental ballistic missile at you from the other side of the world.
Yep. Thanks.
Anyway, the nets are instantly torn by the monster, so much like the submarine, I don't know why it was brought up. One thing I do actually really like is that despite you not getting a huge amount of context, just through the way they shoot this monster, they do a pretty good job of showing you that it's bigger. Like, they shoot it from beneath a lot more. Like, they give a bit more extreme angles on it. And they kind of shoot, like, shots of it are a lot closer. Mm-hmm. So it insinuates that it's bigger than little Gorgo. Just mostly through just shots alone, which I
I was reading that they'd bought like a slow-mo camera as well to do some of the shots in
I
more
did
slow-mo to make
notice
it
that.
feel more dramatic and
Because
well, you
way,
have to do this stuff, yeah.
yeah, like the way they used to do like the Godzilla stuff and things like that, which is they just film it at like on a special camera and then slow it down so it would look like it was taking a long time to move its hefty bulk, which is like what they do in this. And I'm like, there's Godzilla movies like that didn't like do that, like Godzilla versus King Kong. There was like, it's fine, let's just have a dude obviously just not even slowed down.
Okay, I'm gonna
swinging around and being weird.
I'm afraid I'm gonna have to correct you here. They were doing that from the very first Godzilla movie. The only time they didn't was in Godzilla Raids Again, where they fucked up and did it the wrong way around, so it acts super fast.
Okay.
But yeah, you basically shoot at a higher frame. Effectively, you shoot at a higher frame rate,
and then double it so the kaiju look even faster.
And then when you bring it down to a regular speed, then everything will move slower. Which is just how from Godzilla that's just been the standard practice. Yeah. But I imagine those cameras are expensive and were they're expensive now, but I imagine they were extra expensive back then.
Nah, my phone does slow-mo, it's all good.
Well,
yeah, just create a time machine and go back in time to the 60s and just film Gorgo 2. Easy.
So Mama Gorgo has reached the docks, and their first plan to stop the monster is to dump fuel out of a bunch of container ships and light the entire fucking harbour on fucking fire.
Which is a metal way to do it, and also I've written because like Mum Gorg like punches a hole in the London Bridge and just destroys it. So I've got, oh no, London Bridge.
Is this where is this the Tower Bridge just being destroyed?
Yeah, we'll get
later
there.
on.
Things to mention first.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Which is that when they light the whole this dock area on fire, there's a bunch of just like onlookers, like Londoners,
caught on fire.
who are just like, oh, that's interesting. And then when the thing goes up, they just get fucking incinerated.
And true to form, even though they are on fire, no Londoners will even piss on them to put them out.
This is true, yes. This is a pro-Irish, anti-London podcast.
Yeah, fuck London. If you live in London, no you don't. That place sucks.
This is where we establish that that they we can't use nukes. The area is too built up for that, but a state of emergency is declared. So tanks are mobilised. You see people evacuating, being asked to head to bomb shelters, which I guess, a bunch of them would still be around.
Yeah, can I just say, I love that. No, we are not authorising the use of atomic weapons. Yes, you can have tanks.
the look of glee when he's allowed he could have tanks. He's just like, oh, can I?
Come on, if you're like a fucking general in the army, you want to use a tank all the time.
I want to use a tank now, and I'm not even a general in the army.
Like, you want to drive the tanks around. Like, I can't judge him for that.
Mostly because he wants to get the tank models out to put on his little board.
Yeah, and then he gets the little brush without the bristles on it, and just go and just push him along.
Yeah. In the people like evacuating, you see a little girl drops her doll, which is then trampled by the crowd, which is the universal symbol of
fuck
this
Barbie.
Is a bad time to be in a crowd.
Isn't it interesting how a lot of movies kind of show you scorched or broken the things, like either toys or things heavily associated with children, to show that this is an apocalyptic level event, or a really horrific event has taken place. Like, Terminator 2 with showing like the repeated imagery of the playground getting atomized, or like a more kid-friendly one of like the doll in Mulan, where they find the raised village
yes.
and they find the little dolly, which is actually fun thing. And then I'll shut up and we'll talk about this fucking boring movie. But when they find that raised village, there is no more musicals throughout the rest of the movie. I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah. But yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just concentrating on remembering where my place
I'm
is.
concentrating on not falling asleep during this. I think I did fall asleep during a little couple of bits of this movie because you're telling me them and I don't remember them.
I think you just didn't commit them to memory.
I'm sorry, I can't help it. You just are bad at picking movies I want to watch.
I wanted to pick something different, so we didn't just end up with another movie that has the exact same score as the last two.
Okay, so yeah, let's just not watch good movies that I'll enjoy then.
I just picked a movie. I didn't remember whether it was good or bad. I remember.
Yes, you did, you lying liar who lies all the time.
I remembered having some, finding it interesting. That's what I remembered, and so that's why I picked it.
I actually don't have that much of a strong feeling about it.
Yeah,
I just like to argue with you.
Anyway, where the fuck am I?
People were on fire. There was a dolly that got stamped
The doll
on.
got trampled. Yes, the death of innocence and all that. The military take up position on Tower Bridge, not London Bridge, Tower Bridge.
It's a bridge in London. Fuck do I care? This is an anti-London podcast. If you live in London, fuck you. No, you don't.
One of them's a lot older than the other, so it does kind of...
Well, I mean, it depends if you mean the remade one or one of the original.
Well, okay, yeah, actually, that's a point,
God.
Yeah.
Look, London Bridge is
the point
a
is
whole thing.
we'll get to the point about Tower Bridge later on. We have a point about that. They're on Tower Bridge. They open fire at the creature again. Doesn't do much, obviously, because it didn't do much at the little creature, and is not going to do much at the one that is like 4 times the size.
Well, maybe they thought that they'd shot the Bebgorg so much that they've essentially inoculated it to bullet fire. But Mumgorg didn't have that. So
Maybe.
this is a pro-vaccine movie.
Okay.
That hates London.
Anyway, Mama Gorgo is mad and just smashes the shit out of Tower Bridge.
Yeah, fuck you, Tower Bridge.
Fulfilling the whole thing of that if you're going to do something in a famous city, then you have to destroy whatever
a landmark.
Is there. The Arc de Triomphe, I remember getting destroyed
Sydney
in
Opera House.
Destroy All Monsters.
Well, doesn't Zilla get like football kicked through Sydney Opera House?
Yes, in Final Wars.
In Final Wars, yeah. As is tradition. The Tokyo Tower has been destroyed about 50 times in different kaiju movies I've seen. Yep.
One time it has a Gauss make a nest in it.
Okay.
Good.
Gauss is a monster from Gamera.
It is.
Okay, I'll shut up.
I have 2 notes on the Tower Bridge thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, firstly, gotta love the model work. Gotta throw that out there. It's pretty cool. Secondly, when Tower Bridge goes down, some news commentator or whoever it is, this person who's like reporting on this, says that's one of London's oldest monuments destroyed.
Yes.
Tower Bridge was finished in 1894. The film was presumably, if it was set when it was released, 61. It might have been set a bit earlier when it was filmed. I don't know, but assuming it was set in 61, Tower Bridge was 67 years old at that point.
Yeah, it's not just a case of it was built in living memory. It's like people who built it, some of them might still be alive.
Yeah, like there is a lot of old buildings in London, and even now, like Tower Bridge is pretty, it's pretty cool. It's iconic, blah blah blah. But even now, compared like relative to like some of the other buildings in London, it's not that old. And
well,
at the time,
it's
67 years is not a long time.
It feels very written by an American, because Americans think that's
it is a British production.
That's what's weird about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, the thing is, it's like next to like the Tower of London.
Yeah,
which is much older.
Maybe
you see the House of Parliament, which is some of
also
bits
much
of that
older.
Some bits of it are a lot older.
Well, yeah, some bits are. Yeah.
Gorgo could have won the hearts of the English populace if they'd have just stamped the fuck out of number 10. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah, well...
You just stamp on that and they'd be like, I gotta give it to the big lizard. At least it's not lying to get us to fight with a rack or fucking whatever. Because that's my best Yorkshire accent. Did you like it?
That was Yorkshire?
No, I was actually... I was joking!
I can't tell.
I literally... One of my big...
Why do you hang your hat so much on this accent thing?
I don't know.
Anyway, Gorgo gets onto land. Actually, I do want to mention, this whole thing is lit in a very moody fashion that reminds me of the Godzilla movies they made in the 90s. Like this, I don't know, it just kind of reminds me of a lot of that kind of era, which is just one of the things where this movie is like oddly ahead of its time in some ways. It's peculiar. So it comes upon land, the military fire more and more shit at it, which basically does nothing. Typical Godzilla stuff. And then, as my notes say, Comrade Mama Gorgo starts demolishing the Houses of Parliament.
Oh. Comrade.
And that this scene, because it, destroys... I can never remember the actual name of it, but the tower, the clock tower, and
Elizabeth
starts a
Tower?
million pedants going, actually, Big Ben is just the bell.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So Big Ben isn't the tower, it's the bell.
No, I always forget what the actual tower's called.
Big Ben Tower.
But yeah, the Big Ben is just the actual bell.
Well, maybe the tower is called Ben.
It is not. I think it's
Okay,
called...
so you don't know what it's called.
It's the
You know it's
Elizabeth
not
Tower,
called Ben.
right?
I was about to say, I thought it was... Did they rename it to that? I
No,
believe.
probably. No idea.
But yeah, I think it is the Elizabeth Tower, I think what it's actually called.
I did just write Lamouth, get fucked, Big Ben.
I mean, yeah.
Because that was pretty
I mean, it
Big
does
Ben
destroy
would
the
also
bell,
be fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not wrong. Back at the circus, we see Sean jump into an army van, and the soldier scoops the kid up, oh, come, you're fucking coming with us.
Oh, let's adopt another Irish child.
It's not really particularly communicated well why this is happening, but Sam and Joe give chase.
Well, I'm guessing he's just being evacuated because they do say go to the nearest bomb shelter or the London Underground.
Yeah, well, that's where
Which is like
one of the places where you go to, go and shelter during the Blitz and things.
I think my grandfather was there during the Blitz, and he was just no one gave a fuck after a while. He said that he was my grandfather was sitting in a cafe talking to a friend, and there was just boards all over the windows because no one had windows anymore because they'd all been blown out. And then they hear the air raid sirens off, and everyone just kind of stops and just waits for them to go past. And then they just carry on their conversation because they just did not give a fuck.
That does not surprise
and I'm like,
me at
that's
all.
grim.
I don't think it's that he's not evacuating with Sam and Joe. He's
just been stolen by the army at this point.
It does, especially because of how eagerly the army guy grabs the kid.
I finally got a
rather
son.
than being why the fuck is this kid jumping on, trying to jump in this thing? He's like, oh no, there's a child, must take. It's
free kid. Don't give some
weird.
backsies.
Anyway, we get more of Gorgo smashing up London. There's a real big emphasis on people being crushed by falling bricks in this movie.
I think they just wanted to show off that quite cool composite shot that they had, where it was just a bunch of falling bricks, and then they kind of layer it over people lying on the floor going, oh no, we're being crushed by bricks, as you can see. Which was honestly, that would have looked amazing at the time.
So as they get deeper into London, because Joe and Sam are in their car, and following this army truck, and they kind of lose sight of where Sean is, and so they kind of get out of the car because there's too many people around, and they start looking for him. More smashing, and then they see Sean is just kind of sitting there, kind of just happily looking at Gorgo murder people. Well, Big Gorgo, Mama Gorgo, Joe sees him and does what comes natural to him and grabs the child and runs off with him.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
And there's a real emphasis here on how chaotic the evacuation is in a way that in these movies you don't often see. There's a lot of repeated shots in it, but you see there's people jumping out of buildings. There's people falling over and getting shit going bad for them. It doesn't shy away from how fucked it would be to have try and evacuate a city as it's being destroyed.
That's honestly, yeah.
It's odd. It has an odd commitment to realism in this and only this thing.
I do think it's interesting how the main kind of concern is not being stamped on by the monster. It's the fact that you're being trampled by a hysterical crowd.
Yeah,
that's what the majority of fatalities are.
At least the ones we see, we do see a few.
There are a lot of shots of just people fighting through crowds, holding kids up and stuff, and it's yeah, you're gonna get crushed. And can I just honorable mention the end is nigh guy?
We'll get there in a second.
Oh, that
we'll get there in a second. Joe and Sean decide, because fucking Sam's elsewhere at this point. We don't actually know where he is.
He's off.
Joe goes down into the underground with a shitload of people to try and wait out Gorgo walking above them. But Gorgo is obviously, Big Gorgo, Mama Gorgo is so fucking heavy it just completely collapses the station. And you see Joe and Sean well, it's Joe. He's carrying Sean. He jumps into the actual train tunnel part, whilst the entire station gets completely like caved in and presumably kills like 300 people right then and there.
That's quite a high body count for that scene.
So that's that's pretty fucked. And then the tunnel starts to flood, and so they have to quickly get out of like a service tunnel. We see Mama Gorgo heading into like Piccadilly Circus and smashes like a big sign that's there that's got like "Come see Gorgo" on it.
You can't have a kaiju movie without them destroying something that is very related to the movie. So either the cinema it's debuting in or a sign with it. There has to be something like that. It's the law. Where
was I? Oh, so we see some jets are launched, which I presume are also American jets.
I think they are.
I wasn't paying attention. I'm not super good at this era of military like stuff. I'm not good at many eras of military stuff, but I'm worse at this. And those jets start, like, firing missiles at Mama Gorgo, but don't really do much apart from blowing up things that Mama Gorgo hasn't crushed yet.
Which is, wow, nice work.
Yeah.
You're helping her out. Nice one.
This is when we see a repent the end is nigh guy.
I do love him. Hey, this man looks so stoked to be there.
Yeah, he's like,
fuck you, we're all gonna die. It's gonna be awesome. I'm wearing a
finally,
sandwich board.
Making this sign pays off.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's wearing the full-on sandwich board.
Although I did notice how cheaply the sign was made. It was a sandwich board that they'd got like butcher paper and like PVA'd it because it was peeling off at the edges. And
look,
you
they
could see
spent
they
spent a lot of money on that monster.
That's fine.
And also, I'm going to be honest, I don't think guys who walked around, if they ever did, I presume they must have existed at some point because they're such like a pop culture staple of a certain era.
Yeah, maybe. I've never seen one myself, but I've always been aware of the trope.
Yeah, they must have existed in some form. But anyway, I don't think these people exactly had like a huge amount of money for professional sign making. I think
if the end is nigh, why don't you spend a bit more extra to get people catching?
I think it was very much a passion project, so they probably did it themselves.
Well, maybe if they applied themselves more, might be more convinced that the end was nigh. Just saying.
Anyway, it was extremely fucking nigh for this guy because he's trampled by the crowd.
Yeah, he gets trampled to death.
He is dead now. I hope he wasn't your favorite character because he is dead.
He was my favorite character.
So Mama Gorgo is heading towards the circus. Obviously heading towards
to save
baby Gorgo.
Yeah.
And Joe gets back there with Sean. Sam's already got back. The military is shown asking the professors, like, how much would it take to electrocute the big one?
Pet peeve here. Electrocution is death by electricity.
I think that's what they're trying.
Shock.
I think they're trying to kill it.
I know, but a lot of people do think, I was like, oh yeah, I got electrocuted at work today. It's like, well, you look pretty alive.
Well, yeah. They guess about 2 million volts. So we see Battersea Power Station being prepared. They then, in the time frame that is only possible in kaiju movies, they erect some new power lines all around the park.
Imagine if they were this quick to fix the potholes, am I right?
Yeah.
This is what your fucking council tax goes for.
This type of big public works program is impossible in modern cities.
It really is.
But so they erect these power lines, and Mum Gorgo, gets there, gets hit by 4 million volts, and then just knocks the things down, which is a rehash of the exact same thing happening about halfway through the 1954 Godzilla film. Mm-hmm. This movie does recycle a lot of things. So Mama Gorgo then gets up to where the swimming pool, the baby's being kept in.
The baby piss pool.
The baby piss pool. Like, with her foot, like, smashes the side of it to, like, make her, so that there's, like, a clear ramp to get out of it. And baby Gorgo leaves the pen with its mum, and we just...
And the journalist gives, like, this Joker from Full Metal Jacket-esque monologue about how there it goes, the most powerful creature on God's green earth, knowing that is truly the king of blah, 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 blah. Which is also the same guy that when there was smoke everywhere, he just literally was standing there with his microphone going, oh no, I can't see because of the smoke. And the way I delivered that line was more convincing than he fucking did.
I believe that bit is also stolen from
awful.
from
Awful.
the original Godzilla,
I would have
because there is
preferred it if the guy just straight up just said it in Japanese.
because you do see a bunch of people reporting on Godzilla's attack and then get fucking murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so while this is going on, Joe and Sam and Sean are just kind of sitting there watching this happen, and then the movie abruptly ends.
But I will say, Beb Gorg is adorable next to Mum Gorg.
Yes.
How they just hop into the water, and he's so tiny. It's so cute.
He's a lot smaller than the sort of size difference you see in the picture earlier. It seems
He's way smaller. He's like if
teeny
she's
tiny.
a meter tall, he's like 15 centimeters.
Look, whenever a old
Completely ruined the immersion for me.
Whenever an old monster movie gives you explicit numbers, you take those with the hugest pinch of salt. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that is the end of the movie. It does end very abruptly, but that was not uncommon for movies at this time period,
honestly.
and especially for giant monster movies at this time period. Some of the original Rodan ends so fucking abruptly, you think your DVD is broken.
That good, huh?
That was the movie. Before we get into... do you want me to do some trivia about it first before we get into our thoughts
Yeah, let's
about
get
it?
into trivia.
sure.
So this was very obviously inspired by Godzilla. It was originally going to be set in Japan as an allusion to that. But then they thought, maybe we could set it in France. And then finally they decided to set it in the British Isles.
Not before. This is my favourite trivia fact. If I can just jump in.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're going to say, yes.
Would you like to read it out? Would you like me to read it
you
out?
you say it.
Okay, so yes, it was originally going to be set in Japan, then it was possibly going to be set in France. Then they thought about Australia. They decided not to, because they decided the audiences wouldn't care if a monster attacked Australia.
Like, for real? That is the most English response. Like, who cares
They
about that
also
Britain
cited a
corner?
lack of interesting landmarks to destroy as well in Australia.
When was the Sydney Opera House built? I don't actually know.
Before this film, it's pretty old, isn't it?
Yeah, no, honestly, my social sciences teacher is gonna kill me.
Yeah, I just...
Have a very quick Google. It was built in 59.
1959.
No,
So it was relatively
groundbreaking in 59. It was finished in 73.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a harbour bridge that's older than that.
Yeah, there's
Sydney Harbour Bridge?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the other big well-known landmark is like
The big banana?
is a big rock in the middle.
The big pineapple. The taste of
What's the proper name?
Queensland.
What's the proper name of this rock?
Uluru.
Yeah,
Yeah, but like if you destroyed Uluru, that is so fucked because that is of such cultural significance to the Aboriginal
do
people.
you think the people making these movies care?
No, but I would be cringing so hard I'd break it.
Yeah.
But equally, the people making this film didn't think that was an important thing. So.
Oh yeah. Also,
this is also true.
But again, I reiterate.
Yeah, I love that
pineapple.
fact. They're like, nah, not Australia. No one will give a shit. It's fine.
Yeah, no one gives a shit. That is very funny.
Wow. Okay.
So the actor who played Sean didn't do much acting. He pretty much all around a couple of year period where he was this kind of age. But he would go on to be an assistant director and do a lot of second unit stuff for a lot of other movies, including the 1978 Superman movie and an episode of Magnum P.I., which I just thought was too bizarre a fact to mention. Gorgo was not received super well by reviewers of the time. I noted a couple of things down from some reviews, which was, and I quote, "a sad waste not of talent but of opportunity," that it was designed for juvenile adults, and that it was not unintelligent but is entirely routine.
Devastating.
Which is pretty fucking harsh.
Yeah.
Especially considering this is very early in the kaiju movie sort of oeuvre. And even earlier when you consider it took a few years for them to come over here as well. Because Godzilla was released in 1954 in Japan, but I think it was like 56 or something by the time the King of the Monsters cut, which has the character of Steve Martin inserted into
Oh,
it.
yes.
As
Not that one.
Not that one. Which is why when that character comes back for the English language
Don't they
cut
only
of
ever refer to him as Dr. Martin?
as Mr. Martin,
Mr. Martin,
in Godzilla 1984, because they bring the character back, but only for the English cut of it. There's a weird history of like localizations of kaiju movies. It took a while before we just started getting the same movie but dubbed. Anyway, though Gorgo did not have any true sequel movies, because obviously these kind of movies often got a billion sequels, it did get some comic books, some of which were illustrated by Steve Ditko of Spider-Man fame.
I'm about to say. Huh. Okay.
And
who did he piss off?
And there was a short comedy film released in 2009 called Waiting for Gorgo.
I've heard of this.
Where effectively it takes place many, many years after the movie, where there's an audit of the department at the Ministry of Defense that was set up in case Gorgo ever returned. It's just like 3 actors. You can watch it on waitingforgorgo.com to this day.
Not Spawn.
If you really want to watch it. It's like 15 minutes long or something. I have watched it.
Of course you have.
It is fine. There is also a Japanese film called Gappa the Triphibian Monster, made in 1967. That now I watched both those movies individually many years ago, and I went, these movies have the exact same fucking plot. And then I noticed that the Gappa the Triphibian Monster, it's Triphibian because it is in the water, the land and the air, because it can fly.
Oh wow.
It has the exact same plot. And when I looked up about it later, lots of people have noticed this and basically treat it as if this is like an unofficial remake of Gorgo almost.
Okay.
But for a Japanese audience, which makes a nice change from there being a Western remake of a Japanese film that's kind of bad, it being the other way around. Because I don't remember Gappa being particularly good. Although I do have one interesting fact about it, which is that in the episode of Red Dwarf where they go to a planet where there's it's like a waxwork museum,
Okay.
but all the waxworks are robots, there are monsters there as well, and they use stock footage of Gappa in that episode.
Oh, interesting.
Again, a thing, because I am me, I noticed without being told.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is the movie. That is the trivia I have. What order do we want to give our opinions on and our score about? Who wants to go first?
I think you should go last because I have no idea where you're going to land on this one.
Okay.
And I don't want you to necessarily influence what me or Snipe do.
Okay, that's completely fine. Do you want to go first then, Matt?
Sure, okay. This film... I come down both ways on this film. Some of the things on it are very... it's very slow-paced and blah, 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 but that's, it's made... It was released in 1961. You can't judge it for that. That's fine. But it does feel a little bit lazy sometimes with the terrible ADR and there's a lot of stock footage that isn't necessary. There's stock footage of an American plane flying in the daytime and then it cuts to London at night time where the missiles are hitting and things. It's like
it just took that long.
It's just
to get
a little
there.
bit lazy, and there's a lot of reuse of footage and there's some backwards footage. So some of the footage that they actually make themselves, they obviously filmed it.
Yeah, you see some tanks going around a corner 3 or 4 times.
So many times.
It's the same shot.
Some of the shots that they did themselves, there's one shot where there's people running away and it's just all it's just been flipped, horizontally flipped, because they filmed it one way and then were like, oh no, it'll look better the other way, but they didn't change any of the adverts on the buses and things. And you're like, well, why?
Yeah.
Just show it the other way, or just, I don't know. So there's a lot of things like that, and then there's various mistakes on things and you don't want to criticise too much, but it's just emblematic of the ever so slight laziness in it. Like they say, when they're doing the voltage generation thing towards the end, they say turn it to the power station to full power, and they make a big point of zooming in on the big switch that he turns to shut down. And you're like, no one noticed this, you've zoomed in on the thing. And then the dials on the voltage say PSI, which is pressure and not volume, and not pressure, not voltage, sorry. And there's just things like that. It's like, did no one check these things? But then, like, on the flip side of that, some of the like special effects, and don't get me wrong, like I've not seen many 60s like monster films that would have special effects in, but they hold up pretty well. Like some of the composites, like you were saying earlier, some of the composite shots between where you've got the like suit motion stuff and on the like smaller scale, or filmed on the smaller scale, bigger scale. Wait, which way around is it? Yeah, smaller scale. Yeah, and then you've got like the actual just humans doing stuff, or like composited together. Looks pretty cool. And like some of the green screen shots, like all of the shots where they're in boats are like pretty obviously green screens, but you can only tell because there's like a weird funny outline around them sometimes. And it's like it's less obvious at a first glance than some like bad films now that use terrible green screen shots. And you just watch it and you're like, well, this is obviously a terrible green screen. Whereas that you didn't notice until you noticed the like slight flickering. So you're like, so there's some bits of it that are like technically really good. So it's sort of, yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. Yeah, I don't know. It's not. It also, I mean, it's not my sort of thing, to be honest. And as much as I can't let that affect me too much, like it, you know, these are our scores. I'm not grading it for how objectively good it is, because I'm not Snipe and can't objectively grade it.
Exactly,
So,
I'm the only one who's allowed to do that.
The scores at the end of these things are purely subjective. This is an objectivity free zone.
Absolutely. So on that regard, I'm going to disappoint some people and please some people by giving it a 4.
Fair.
Okay.
Fair.
I think that is a completely fair score. And what say you, Snipe?
I honestly, Jerome hit the nail on the head, so many points. But yeah, there were points like composite shots where you can tell that was somebody's baby. They tried really hard and it did still look pretty good and it was really impressive. But then there's like, yeah, just the blatant who gives a fuckism about a lot of it. And I was struggling so hard to pay attention to this movie. And I know I'm being a little bit unfair with it purely because I had so much I couldn't understand about it because I am physically disabled and could not understand about it. But the ADR was so appalling to the point where it feels like they maybe gave the voiceover artists like you know, oh, you can have a look at some of the footage we got, and then they just asked them to freewheel because it's so not what's happening, and it really made my head hurt. But yeah, no, I think more countries should have had a go at making their own giant monster movies.
Yeah, I always love it when I find a new one from like a new place.
It's just interesting, kind of like seeing how they interpret the tropes and stuff like that, and how this literally was just King Kong.
Yeah, a little bit,
which is fine. But yeah, and I was like, can we give like half scores? Or is it has to be whole numbers?
It's got to be rounds for our score, for what we give anyway. The final score can have a decimal point, but...
Okay, I'm going to say 3.
3. Okay.
I'm sorry. It's just a bit too old. It's just not quite the kind of genre I'm really interested in that much. And it messed up a lot. And yeah, no, I'm sorry. It's got to be a 3.
That is complete. It's completely fair, and I will vow to, if I bring another giant monster movie to you for your delectation, then I will.
My delicatessen.
I will try and find something that is maybe a little more. What I think will be you folks' speed.
Okay. Well, I mean, thank you. I'm glad I watched it because it's
absolutely.
But like, yeah, I'm not mad at you.
I'm
mad
very
at
much
the English.
I would never have watched this film if it wasn't suggested for this, so I'm very happy that I have now seen it.
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons why
I don't consider it like a waste of time, or I don't regret watching it by any means. I definitely enjoyed having seen it.
Yeah.
You just will never think about it again after you hit stop record.
I have definitely seen this movie. What about you?
Okay, so I actually made a bunch of notes here because I knew I wanted to like kind of hit some points because I really, because like as a fan of the genre of the kaiju movie, and having seen, quite a lot of them, and not just the Godzilla movies, like I mentioned earlier, I've mentioned like Gappa and Gamera and Yongari, and hell, I've watched the North Korean propaganda kaiju movie Pulgasari. So, like, I know I'm watching it through a very specific context of that I'm willing to forgive a lot of things because I'm so familiar with the tropes. But there are some things where I was like, okay, so the protagonists of this, especially Joe, are so fundamentally unlikable that I don't care what happens to them.
You can have protagonists that is terrible people who you don't like. You can do that. Not in this movie.
But they're not interestingly awful either.
They're just awful.
They're just kind of shitheads. Like I say, especially Joe. Sam's not so bad at times, but, it's whatever. And one thing that I thought was quite funny is that once the finale begins, they are not involved in the plot, even slightly. Sam, Joe, and Sean are just observers to the entire rampage at the end. Nothing that happens
if you want
is
to
related
give a
to them.
charitable reading, you could say that was representative of the disempowerment that they feel. But no, it was just they forgot the protagonists existed. Let's be fucking honest.
But literally, they could disappear from the movie and it would play out the same. You just wouldn't have... Because all that they used for is for a few point of view things, but we also have lots of point of view things of lots of unnamed characters throughout that finale. So it's like, like I say, it does have an abrupt ending, but that is not uncommon for the time. It's very derivative of Godzilla at times, like the original Godzilla. So it means that, and as I was saying about like the people not being involved, like it means that for most of the movie, the only character who has actually any agency in the movie is Mama Gorgo.
Okay, so Girl Boss? This is a feminist movie. Let me tell you what this is. I'm going to give you a feminist reading of Gorgo.
Okay.
1961. Girl stamps on Parliament. Yas Queen. I just want to stamp on Parliament. If I was a giant monster and therefore non-actionable.
But there are some things that I do think are genuinely cool about it, like that this was a kaiju film in colour the year before the first colour Godzilla film, which was King Kong versus Godzilla. And it is shot in, there's a lot of amazing effects work, and it is shot in ways that are often kind of ahead of their time in terms of, like I say, some of this kind of movie. Because, like I say, there are some shots in there that gave me real big vibes of, like the 90s era of, like, you kind of, not even 90s, because that series did start in the 80s, like, you kind of Godzilla versus Biollante, or
All Hail.
Godzilla, Mothra Save the Earth, or whatever it's called. The one with Batra in it, that often did have their finales take place at night, because it were, a lot of the older ones did not necessarily do that, because it's obviously harder to shoot in darkness.
Yeah, but the lighting and the explosion effects look so much cooler.
Yeah, and I thought like a lot of these things were really cool. And like I say, the effects work is occasionally a little lazy, or I guess it's more like some shots are lazy, but the effects work is nearly always very high effort.
I did forget. I wanted to mention how I was actually quite pleasantly surprised by the twist that Gorgo is the baby.
Yeah,
I didn't see that coming, and I was like, oh, that's kind of fun.
That is a fun turnaround. You know,
credit where it's due. That was a fun little twist.
It did make me happy because I was like, this isn't so threatening, seeing as like they just caught it with a net. All they need to do is get another net.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, so.
And I did also appreciate how unflinchingly brutal the movie was once shit got real.
It got kind of gruesome. Like, I remember there was like a composite shot of a guy in like a flat, and like you could just see him through the window, and then like the bricks all, because England is built with bricks. It's not like Australia where everything's wood, and it's not like America where most things are wood.
Everything's made of drywall.
Everything's made of drywall.
Drywall? What am I saying?
I don't know.
Drywall. That's what I wanted to say.
There you go. Load-bearing drywall.
Yeah.
I know that's a joke. It's fine. But yeah, no. So that it was unflinching at times.
Yeah, and in a way that I think that's probably something that it also borrowed from the original Godzilla film, because it's very easy to forget in the subsequent brace of films that came out sort of during, mostly during like the 60s. That the first Godzilla is not a silly movie. It takes its subject matter very seriously, and there are some moments that are genuinely like, oh fuck, like that go hard. I feel like that was probably borrowing from that. And it's taken a long time for that. If like the most recent couple of Godzilla movies have really lent into that again, which is interesting to see.
I will say, it just kind of occurred to me that they didn't feel gratuitous. They just felt kind of gritty and realistic, as much as a 1960s monster movie death scene could be.
A silly premise, but it's taken seriously.
But yeah, and like it's not talking about the deaths and stuff. It's like, it's not like, it's not milking it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, no, well, yeah, they're gonna get crushed to death by bricks or trampled. There it is.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, yeah, I suppose.
And all that stuff means that though I can like acknowledge that the movie's it's got some major problems, and I don't think this is necessarily a movie for anyone to start watching this kind of genre of movies at. But as a fan of the genre and stuff, I think I got a bit more out of it. But I also acknowledge that it is fairly generic, and you can not watch it and you're not missing a huge amount beyond a few cool effect shots. And so I am going to give it the stamp of mediocrity of 5.
Okay.
So,
I kind of think, I thought you'd do that. Like, not kind of being negative or anything.
which means it ends up with an overall thing of 4. Its rating
4.
is 4, which means that this is, subjectively, the worst movie we have watched so far in this run, coming below Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie.
At Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie at 4.7.
Yes. So,
I think that's a fair score.
yeah. I'm also happy that to add it, to give a movie that wasn't like, completely terrible or completely amazing. To sort of, I think there's interesting things to be talked about in this sort of middle ground of stuff that's all right.
Yeah, it's fine.
But Snipe.
Yes.
The next episode, it falls to you.
It is my choice next time.
It is.
Okay.
What movie are we going to watch for the next episode?
Okay, so I think people might be starting to spot a pattern here with the movies I'm suggesting. It is the 1992 Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting. Okay.
Which I loved as a kid. Haven't really watched it as an adult, though.
I have not seen that
As a-
movie for about 15 years.
As a blonde kid, a blonde little girl who loved fist fighting, I loved it. This came out before the Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV series.
Yes.
Quite a bit before. A lot before. Nearly, like 8 years before. So, yeah. And I know that you've maybe seen it once.
I have seen it once with you, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was like 15 years ago.
Don't say that. But yeah, so, and you can watch it if you have Disney Plus in the UK. You can watch it on there. Not sponsored.
But just if you want to watch
you
these
want to
before
watch
it. Because actually, this is the first episode that has been recorded after we've started setting the episodes live.
Yes. So also tell us if you watched Gorgo, what your opinions, what your thoughts, what your ratings were, because we're very interested in seeing. And yeah, please watch the 1992 Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie for the next episode, because I want to see what everyone thinks about that.
I am really intrigued to see how well that has aged. Because I know that, the shine has somewhat gone from Joss Whedon for multiple reasons for the series.
The woman who plays Buffy in that is a psychopath.
Oh!
Horrifying person. Do not like her at all. But I won't spoil anything about the actual movie. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Because I haven't seen it in a good while.
Okay, so, well, good day, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
And we'll see you next time for Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Goodbye.
Bye!
Bye.